going to talk about compounding ROI with AI. This is we'll go through this, and there's at the end there's a playbook which you can apply going back and taking back. Let's get started. So here is what the agenda looks like. Before we talk the playbook, before we talk about how it can be applied, so I want to level set a little bit of what usually breaks, and what happens, how the calculation should be made, what is the way that we have used, and we have used at multiple organizations to measure this, and then we'll run through the playbook after that. And I want to leave you all with a slide that shows you how it would how one stage kind of compounds on the other. So it's not really just taking ROI from one to another and applying it. It actually does compound. So I want to show you all that. So before we get started, I just want to quickly introduce myself. So Vice President of Engineering. I've been with Sage IT for a few years now. I've got career across multiple places before that, fully in the technology. I want to add that last line there just to highlight that Sage IT as a company is AI believer. I know there is this contrarian view of AI as a disruption. It's impacting, but we strongly believe AI is something that is going to help in the long run, and we all should be responsible with it. So yeah, let's talk ROI. First thing, so the first is, this is a little bit controversial. So we've all seen the model costs go down to some degree, but what we are not realizing it is the tokenizers behind are changing. The number of tool calls are changing, which ultimately means that your token cost, your cost to run the same use case is increasing. So you got to factor this in. So that's one of the key thing. And GPT 5.1 released 23rd April, $5 and $30 per million tokens. That's double 5.4. So that's just an example, not to say anything bad about them, but it's just like it's underlying costs that you wouldn't see. So you shouldn't just jump right into the newer frontier models. So we should pace ourselves depending on what is the benefit that you'd get with that. So build and run costs. So this is very key thing that we've noticed. So build time kind of gets out of hand. We've seen good examples of this. I think Uber is the one that announced that they've run through their tokens in 3 months, 6 months. So we've seen that at some of the organizations that we work with. The runtime cost is another thing that is hidden. So you have to factor it in. The more powerful your use case is, the more people are going to start using it. So you'll have to factor that in. It's not just a matter of, people used to use it 3 times, but now once with AI, they will see better use of it, which means that you should expect the 5 times, 6 times usage of it. Right? So that needs to be factored in as well. So we've seen that come and bite. So a customer service example, I think, which is very well known, in one of our deployments, we've had to take that back down because it did not make economic sense. The ROI didn't add up properly. So that is one. The next one is, and this is a little bit tough to measure, so effectiveness. And what we mean by that is how well the AI is actually going to be effective in coming up with the use case. And I think there are a few things that are specifically called out, we've seen this with any advertised use case out there. AI spend and how much it costs to build AI is clearly advertised, but what it really improve at the end of the day, that's a little bit tough to measure. So I want to move on to how or where calculations break. So exactly the effectiveness that we were looking at. So that's a wrong metric. That's not measured properly. If not measured properly, you're measuring the wrong thing. So this is a very well-known example as well. So Klarna is the company for this. I don't want to call that out on the slides here, but they've famously advertised in 2024 February, saying that they're replacing 700 of the people with the OpenAI collaboration. But a year after, they had to pivot back and bring the humans back, and that's because, and this is quoted by their CEO as well, they're measuring the wrong thing. They're measuring how quickly they're achieving the resolution, but not how what is the quality of resolution. So that's important to measure as well. And then the next one is no instrumentation before deployment. This is again another famous example. If we don't have instrumentation done before, it's going to be very tough to quantify, because it's always going to look very positive if that is not properly factored in. So we've seen that happen. You cannot go back, like once you have deployed AI in production in front of the use cases, in front of your customers, you cannot go back and take it out and then measure what it would look like once you have AI. So you need to factor this in as well. And then finally, I think this was brought up by some of the leaders when they were talking in the keynote as well. So restrictions, regulations, that is outside of our control. So we have to figure out, okay, what does that mean if someone stops me using from whether AI in this whole use case or whether this model in this use case. So we need to definitely factor that in. I've just listed a couple of examples. I mean, I'm sure there are others. So yeah, this usually takes years if it is in a regulated industry. But if you need to change your model altogether to something open weights, for example, then that's a rewrite of your use case. So you need to factor that in. So that kind of level sets us where they would break. Right? Now let's look at how do we measure ROI, and this is something that we've done for majority of our use cases. So I want to just use this as a way to guide how the playbook would work. So there is 5 metrics here, although in the equation there is only 4. The last one is effectiveness, which we'll talk about in a minute. The few that are there: capacity release, cost saved, and time saved. So those are your benefits. So what does AI give you? Whether it can give you capacity, whether it can give you cost, or it will save you time doing whatever, right? And this doesn't point only to AI for engineers. This is general AI when it is applied. It is going to save you money with doing one of these. And there is risk aversion as well that is factored in the last metric. Then the denominator is all total cost. So what does that mean? So it is cost of tokens, infrastructure, build, and human as well. So we also have to account for bot sitting, which is what the term is called now. So that would mean human in the loop. That would mean your engineer spending time to actually guide the AI to achieve the outcome. So that is needed as well. And then obviously maintenance and licensing and all that. So now the 5th and important metric, which is effectiveness, that is very tough to measure. What we have done is we've started measuring it as an outcome observability is what we call it. So instead of looking at LLM traces, instead of looking at what is happening in a specific interaction, we kind of started looking at a little bit superficial and looking at use case as well. So for a given use case, what is exactly happening through the stack, right? So that's really what we try to point out. So that's what we call as outcome observability. Now let's get to the playbook. So the main thing here is it's a incremental stages that we go through. So this is stage 1. So Agentic Build, I think we've all done this, and I think majority of the organizations are already here. It's table stakes now. If not, I think we should talk what's stopping you. So this is letting your engineers, letting your whole dev team start applying copilots and all that. So we also have to make sure that velocity is released and redeployed, and that's the key thing. So without redeployment, it's a loss. Like it won't be visible. It will just get absorbed by mundane work. So you have to make sure it gets redeployed. So that is the key thing. So how did it look like in practice, and what does the ROI look like? So I've included an example. Obviously, I didn't quote the customer, so we can talk in the booth if there is an interest of what it is. But we are able to achieve 60% of productivity, and that translated to the ROI math that is shown here. So it released capacity. This is 60% of 15 engineers is what we are quoting here. I mean, this is just one deployment. There's multiple others that we've done where it changed quite a bit. So what is the effectiveness here, right? So as I said, this is not that easy to measure, but what we ultimately observed is that the product that is released is much more defect-free, right? So that's one of the key metric that we've encountered. Now moving on to the next, so before moving on to the next one, I want to get something to show how you would approach this and what are the different steps to follow while you apply this. I think there is 4 steps here. I think it can be debated whether this is 4 or 3. But regardless, like first one is we enable copilots, Claude codes, whatever is that you prefer to use. I think that needs to be enabled. So that's table stakes. That's done already, I'm assuming. Now comes the agents doing majority of the work. And this is where we let agents do 80, 90% of it. And we are kind of reviewing, kind of making sure that it is producing the right outcome. And majority of the organizations are already here. And I think some are moving past this. So the next comes agents orchestrating it. So what that means is, and we've started piloting with a couple of our organizations that we work very closely with, and we're seeing some very good traction. So I was talking to a few folks here as well. So what we do is we call it as a conductor, for example, which uses the frontier intelligence, and it divides the work into 3 or 4 agents, which does not need frontier models, which would need like a cheaper versions of the models to do minimal work. Right? So, and then they come back to the frontier conductor, which does the evaluation, which makes sure that the work is accurate and all that. So that is how agents, like you can do 3 times more, so even the productivity that is gained by enabling agents and copilots is one thing, but if you are able to do this, you are getting the 3 times, 4 times more productivity from each of your engineers. And the last step is agents autonomy. I think it's a little bit far away, and some of the probably very well advanced organizations might be doing it already, and there is good product companies that are attempting this as well that we kind of talk to all the time. So that's kind of it. Like if you are looking at this agentic build as a first step, so what this gives you is it gives you engineering capacity that you need to redeploy. So that's the key takeaway here. And how do we redeploy it? And this is stage 2. So once the engineering capacity is recovered, like we have to look at what are the SaaS products that are being that you are paying today. And I think this is very well underserved, but we are seeing huge traction with a lot of conversations that we have with all the organizations that we work with. So there is a lot of potential in terms of SaaS products that you don't really need, but you have been carrying over the years because that is something that was added into your organization a while back. So that is where that is what this means. So the build and buy line has kind of moved a little bit. So earlier, if an organization is debating, okay, whether I should buy or whether I should build, they usually tend towards buying it. That's because the risk aversion is there, and you don't want to take that risk of, okay, building this and then maintaining it. But now, since the lines have moved, so we are seeing more and more that organizations are attempting to build, and we'll talk about how we need to do that. So what did this, and I just quoted a few example SaaS products out there which are seeing downtrend in terms of losing their value, and kind of is reflective of that. What did it mean in practice, and what is ROI we looked at? So we replaced the CRM, and the map there is kind of showing you what it achieved. And the key takeaway, again, the effectiveness is the measurement of it's not just replacing that and leaving at that. So we also make sure that there is no manual fallback on that. Right? So here is a playbook that looks like how to approach this. So we start off with the low blast radius products, the products that have very minimal integrations in rest of your ecosystem. So that is first, like go after them first. Then esoteric. So there is examples like fire in the healthcare industry, for example. There are examples for document management, which are very, very niche, very, very peculiar in their use case. So you need to go after them, and not because they are bad, but because you utilize that money for something else. Right? So that's another. And then the third is, I think once you've done these 2 steps, you're ready for taking the business functionality and building it your own way, not a vendor's opinion of how you should run your business. And this is key. This is going to put you on the track to kind of be ahead of your competition. Right? And then lastly, I mean, once you've done this, obviously you'd be looking at, okay, what else can I replace, right? So I really don't have to, or we really don't have to tell you, but you'd be looking at, okay, what is coming up for renewal in the next 12 months, let me go after that. Right? So this kind of is what we have seen, and there is organizations already doing this, as I said, really very underserved. Like we should definitely look at this. Right? Now let's cover the next stage, which is Agentic Workforce. This is agents as first-class citizens. So we should be looking at how do you make agents run in your organization. So give them identity, authority, make sure they're secure, make sure they're governed and all that, but make sure the Agentic Workflows is deployed. And in practice and ROI, we are able to deploy it and recover 2 days per service request, and that translated to 1.5 million recovered in the first 3 months of deployment. Then again, effectiveness is mentioned here, so I'm going to skip ahead. So in terms of applying this playbook, the stages, I think this is one of the key things that I want to give out here is a focused intelligence over frontier intelligence. So if you look at SLMs, domain-specific LLMs, I think this is where you need to take organizational data that you have and make sure you optimize a lower weights model, a lower parameter model, than just putting the best model out there in front of everything. So that is, that needs to be factored into your ROI. So the bottom denominator, if you reduce your cost, your ROI automatically goes up, right? And then frugal architecture. So you should not deploy agents unless you know that there is a need for it. Like your deterministic logic shouldn't live with an agent, with an LLM. Storming before forming, and again, this is one thing that we kind of brainstorm, make sure all of our organizations do this. So try 5 ideas, pick the one that wins, right? And ultimately creating for the business. Right? So the last stage here is Agentic Transformation. So this is rethinking how your business is run. Since we have done enough on building agents and adding agentic layers, so now we are able to take it to the next level, kind of reimagine the process. So for one example is you are no longer looking at contracts, or you're no longer working on writing contracts, for example. Your main focus and main work now is reading through the one that AI has generated, right? So that's an example. So we've done this. So again, make sure you are including your employees and users and your people in the transformation. It's not someone like me that comes in and tells you how to do the business. So again, there is question marks in there in the ROI math here. And the reason for that is it's not quantifiable. It's not so easy to quantify how much, what's the time saved, what is the speed gained, or what is the risk averse. So that is something that you would know for your organization. So you should factor that in and calculate it. So how do you get through this transformation is these 4 stages. So this is, I would say, consider this your defining moment. So if your competitor is working on something that you are in, what do they don't want to build, or what do they want to bypass altogether, right? So that is the one thing you need to look at, right? And think bigger, and then last, don't leave behind. Right? Still, change comes from within is what we call it. Like transformation should always be part of your organization, your people. So they should be included. And here is how the stages compound. As I said, the capacity gain from Agentic Build is repurposed for disrupting your SaaS, which will give you flat cost savings, which can be applied to building Agentic Workforce. And then you will learn about how the agents and how the processes are, which can help you transform your business. So I think I only have 20 seconds left, but I'm here, and we are also in booth 316. If you have any questions, if you want to talk to me, please do. So that's all. Venetian.